I will gavel the meeting to order. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We do have a quorum for our July 24th meeting. And with that, we will move on to approval of the agenda. Are there any edits or changes or anything to the agenda today? All right, seeing none and without objection, the agenda is approved. And then we've all received the draft minutes from the June 26th Management Committee meeting. Are there any questions, edit, changes that anyone has for any of those? All right, then seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilmember Osmond and seconded by Councilmember Lee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. That passes unanimously. We'll now move on to our non-consent business items and reports from standing committees. And our first item on today's agenda is 2024-172. It's a same week item, and it's post-65 medical insurance. And do we have Michelle Murray, Senior HR Manager for Benefits with us today to present on this?
Hello.
Welcome. So happy to see you here today.
Yes.
And I'll turn it over to you.
Great. I'm Michelle Murray and I'm here to present business item 2024-172, post-65 medical insurance contract 24P007. So just some background, our post-65 medical insurance is a fully insured Medicare Advantage plan for our retirees enrolled in Medicare. This project solicitation is the first independent RFP issued for this service. Historically, it has always been bundled with our active medical program historically with the council. So our current solution provides our eligible retirees, spouses, and eligible dependents, so it offers Medicare Advantage to those individuals. We currently have enrollment just shy of 2,100 participants. And each individual is considered a participant, whether they're a spouse or a retiree. Our coverage includes prescription coverage under Medicare Part D. And we currently have 3 different plan designs that are offered based on union contract language. For each plan, there's a Minnesota-based plan, and then there's a non-Minnesota-based plan. And eligibility for the post-medical insurance is based on our collective bargaining agreements and or non-represented plan. So starting in January 2025, through clarifications and best of final offers, the following enhanced services were negotiated. A price reduction along with a second year rate cap. The price reduction was 27%. The plan offering will not differ based on address of participants. So today, if you move from one zip code to another, you have to change from one Medicare plan to a different Medicare plan. The plan designs are identical or an enhancement from current plan designs. Provider match was estimated to be 95%. And then prescription formulary match is 99.7%. So each provider has different formulary lists, and so 0.3% of the medications would be different. So our proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize regional administrator to negotiate and execute a contract 24P007 with United Healthcare to provide post-65 medical insurance, an amount not to exceed $28,193,000. It is a lot.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? Any members have any questions?
I have a question.
Councilmember Cedarburg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So is this 28 million a year?
It's 28 million over the course of 5 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Good benefits.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, then seeing none, I would entertain a motion then that the Metropolitan Council authorizes the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 24P007 with United Healthcare to provide a fully insured Medicare Advantage plan and services for our post-65 medical insurance in an amount not to exceed $28,193,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Barber. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Cedarburg. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. That passes unanimously. So thank you very much for being here. Appreciate all the hard work that's been put into this and looking forward to some good results. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is 2024-173, consultant to implement PeopleSoft software modules, contract 23P023. And we don't have Sue with us. Oh, we do have Sue with us today. Great. Sue Hauge, hope I said that right, Deputy Chief Information Officer. So Sue, thank you for being here today. I'll turn the floor over to you.
Great. Thank you, Chair Barber and committee members. So I am here to present business item 2023-173, consultant to implement PeopleSoft software modules. The council is implementing a program, and it is called Business Process Systems Integration, BPSI for short. And the objective is to provide efficiencies through the use of clear, consistent, and standardized council practices supported by common technologies, which is really key, common technologies. And so part of the program is to implement 6 new PeopleSoft modules. PeopleSoft is our main system of record for ERP, primarily for financials and human resources. We have 2 modules that we own currently that we have not implemented yet. One is timekeeping and one is absence management. So we currently have multiple timekeeping systems, so this will consolidate them into one system. And currently for absence management, there is not a single technology solution that tracks leaves across the council. So this new module will be able to track our absences across the council, which is a manual process currently. And then our procurement department right now works in 6 different procurement systems. So in order to do from the solicitation all the way through the whole procurement process, 6 different systems. So this will consolidate into a PeopleSoft system. We already bought 4 modules: strategic sourcing, supplier contract management, inventory, and e-procurement. And so this will consolidate the processes across the council from a procurement perspective. In order to implement these modules, we currently lack the capacity and expertise to actually do this ourselves. So we want to go into a contract with someone to help us implement these modules. So why are we doing this? In other words, what are we going to get out of this? We want to consolidate and modernize technologies, which I talked a little bit about. We want to standardize more efficient business processes. We have a lot of processes right now that are manual, so this will automate that. We will be able to integrate work streams to increase efficiency and improve our reporting to have better decision making. Because we have multiple systems right now, it'll be a lot easier for us to report out of one system. So we issued an RFP on October 30th, 2023. We received 9 proposals. There was an OEEO MCUB goal of 5% for this solicitation, and the evaluation panel reached consensus and that the proposal submitted by Iceberg Technology Group is the most advantageous to the council. And OEEO determined that Iceberg met the requirements of the council, and funding for this project is included in the information services budget. So the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 23P023 with Iceberg Technology Group to provide consulting services for the implementation of PeopleSoft software modules in an amount not to exceed $1,998,080. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Sue? Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a couple of quick questions. So the first one, number one, I can't believe that some of this stuff is being done manually at this day and age, so it's crazy. So first question I have are we going to roll out any kind of a training program for people using the system?
Absolutely. So part of the whole project and program is about, first of all, seeking feedback from all levels about how to have a better process, and then communication and training is 2 big components of this, and we will absolutely have training.
Perfect. And Madam Chair, if I may, I know that for contract manufacturer or contract management, we have a lot of different kinds of contracts, some of them with a lot of different rules. Can you configure the system for those different kind of procurement approaches that we have to take?
Yes, that is this system is supposed to track all the different types of contracts that we currently have.
Councilmember Cedarburg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First question, I have a couple of questions. First one is just timing, and are you phasing the rollout of the different modules? And
Yes, thank you. We will be phasing the different modules. We are going to determine that when the consultant comes on board. To get all of these 6 modules laid out, it's probably a good year. 18 months is probably more an accurate timeframe, about a year and a half to get them all rolled out.
And my second question is, I've had a lot of experience in different lives with consultants coming in and managing, updates and software, and very rarely are they anywhere close to their original budget. I'm just gonna say flat out that seems to rarely happen. This, we didn't know this. So you have a process in place to kind of manage it and hold their feet to the fire for saying, wait a minute, our contract's pretty set here, but these contracts can go off the rails really quickly.
Yes, Chair, Council Member, actually they can, and you hear a lot about ERP projects which really, almost double, sometimes triple in budget. One thing to note on the PeopleSoft end, we've already bought the technology, so we don't have to buy any more technology, so it's just sort of the people resources that we're buying. We have a team, it's like a mini PMO who is managing this program. And we have project managers and a program manager who will very closely track deliverables, timelines, and to make sure that we're on track.
Thank you.
Great question, thank you. Any other questions? I have one question. How long is this contract for?
The contract is for, I believe it's 2 years.
So we've got the rollout of 18 months, there will be onboarding people. And is that pretty standard with, I mean, this seems to me like a pretty late to the table but important move that we make. And so a 2-year contract, is that pretty standard or?
Very standard.
Okay.
Sometimes they're like up to 5, it depends on what we're asking. If it's a typical software contract, we would have more implementation or maintenance, but because this is just people resources till we get through the actual project, it's only 2 years.
Okay, got it. And then, I mean, I'm just thrilled because I would imagine too, through all the systems we have now that are very, siloed, that we'll have a lot more transparency in the full process of everything, which again, you talk about efficiency and I think just, making people's lives a little bit easier who are doing this job as well. So I agree. I'm, I think when I first started to figure some of this out at the council, I'm like, really? Okay, so today is a very good day, right? And we're getting there and doing the things that we've been talking about putting in place. So I'm very supportive of this and I'm glad to see it coming into play. So any other questions? All right, then seeing none, I'll just repeat. The staff's recommendation is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 23P023 with Iceberg Technology Group to provide consulting services for the implementation of PeopleSoft software modules in an amount not to exceed $1,998,080. Is there a motion?
So
Moved by Councilmember Lee. Second, Councilmember Osman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. And those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously, so thank you for your hard work on this. It's a very exciting thing and I'm sure will be very welcomed by everybody throughout the Met Council. Our next item is 2024176. It's the same week item and it's council property insurance contract renewal. And, am I, 175. Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of myself. I crossed it off too soon. Amendment, it's 2024-175, thank you. Amendment to 2024 authorized financial institutions list. And Mark Thompson, our Director of Treasury, is here. And I think this will be a really great presentation, so thanks, Mark, for being with us.
Thank you, Madam
No
Chair.
pressure.
Yeah, it'll be quick, actually. Yes, Mark Thompson, I'm the Treasury Director, and I'm here to present business item 2024-175, which asks for council approval to amend the 2024 authorized financial institutions list. You're probably familiar with this list. We brought it to the council last December for approval. We typically bring it each year or when we are proposing a change, and the purpose of the list is to to inform and provide transparency around the council's financial relationships, and it also satisfies the statute and policy requirements that we approve banks prior to doing business with them. So the current list is attached to the business item. Like I said, it was approved at last December, and this business item is proposing one change to that list. The change is to add First Independence Bank to our CD program. So there's a section in the list that's for our CD program banks. You'll see a red, I put red for the proposed change. And so First Independence Bank has submitted an application to be part of the program. And putting them on this list allows us to proceed with buying a CD from them. Doesn't guarantee we will, but it gives us the ability to move to do that. So this, I guess we anticipate buying a CD from them. Probably it'll be between 1 and 3 million, depending on a number of things. And it's funded from the council's long-term investment portfolio. So partnering with First Independence Bank will help us meet the goals of the CD program, is to put council funds back into our community, to make investments. We make investments with local community banks who have a track record of investing back into the community to support small businesses, affordable housing, and community development. Now, First Independence Bank, many of you are familiar with them. They're a minority-owned bank, and they're also a CDFI, which is a community development financial institution. Those institutions focus on expanding economic opportunity in low-income communities by providing access to financial products and services for local residents and businesses. First Independence Bank focuses on underserved and minority communities in our area, especially towards enabling home ownership, helping the underbanked, and providing financial education. We've actually met with this bank a number of times over the past 6 months or so, and we're happy to finally get an application from them. So we're looking forward to adding them to our approved list. And this, I guess from a Thrive Lens analysis, this list provides transparency around the council's financial relationships and demonstrates stewardship over our financial resources and activities. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any questions? No, I'm just really glad to see this bank now on our list because it meets more of our goals that we're trying to, again, connect into community. And now through COVID, we kind of had to not slow things down, but just had to wait and see approach a bit. So it's good to see that we're expanding the list. So thanks for your work on that.
Great. Madam Chair, during actually last year, we closed the program for 6 months because of the banking crisis that was happening for a while. If you remember that, and now it's back up to speed, and it's adding this bank will put it up to the council's approved it up to 25 million, and this will be our 10th bank and bring us to that full allotment. So
great, thank you. Any other last comments or questions? All right, then the recommendation is the Metropolitan Council approve amending the 2024 authorized financial institutions list to add First Independent Bank as an approved institution for the certificate of deposit program. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Barber, second?
Second.
Seconded by Pacheco. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously. So thanks for your hard work, Mark. This is a good one. Thank you very much. All right, now we can move on to 2024-176. It's the same week, and it's the council property insurance contract renewal. And I will turn this over to Phil Wall-Jasper, our Deputy Regional Administrator.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. Good afternoon, committee members. As mentioned, this is a proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorizes to bind coverage for our property insurance from August 1st of this year until August 1st of next year in an amount not to exceed $4,300,000. This insurance provides coverage for damage to council property, our buildings, contents, our vehicles. But in addition to that, it provides coverage for extra expense, which would be expenses that we would incur to continue our operations in the event of a loss. which is really important with our operations because number one, we can't really afford to be down on a lot of our critical operations. So we have a very strong partnership with FM Global. We've been with them for a couple years now. Prior to that, we were with AXXL for 4 years, but before that, we were with FM for 18 years. So we're back with FM. We rely heavily on their engineering. They come out to our sites, work closely with staff, how to protect our property. This became very important last month because they worked very closely with our flood coverage, our flood protection at the wastewater treatment plants. And we had some higher floods last month, as everyone knows, and because of our partnership with FM, we were in a very, very good position to avert any loss from that. So we get the quote from FM, we work with our broker to benchmark that against other industry leaders that might be able to provide the coverage for us, and this was a very competitive quote, providing the coverage that we need. So with that, Madam Chair, the recommendation again is to bind our property insurance from August 1st of this year to August 1st of next year, an amount not to exceed $4,300,000.
Thank you. Are there any questions from committee members? Councilmember Rossman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this rate the same as last year or is it different?
Chair Johnson, Councilmember Osmond, it's about a 5% increase, which compared to the market is a very good increase. So you have all the losses that you see out in the headlines, the property losses, even the liability losses impact the same carriers that provide this. So they try to recoup coverage by increasing rates, and because of our strong partnership, we came in under industry averages.
Great question, thank you for that. Any other questions? And I just want to thank you, Phil, because I know this is a very lengthy process. It's in great detail, and yet, because you really got to make the case why we are good at what we do, and we have all the, I think, safeties in place and things like that. So one quick question I have, and it was kind of relating to maybe what Councilmember Vento brought up at, I think, maybe our last council of the whole or regular council meeting, but she was talking about how our insurance rates impacting the council. So is this the totality then of all of our assets? Or is it in one, is it transportation related, or is it if we own, we own housing units, we own a lot of property in various ways. So is this an all-in on council property? Just thinking about Councilmember Vento's question.
Yeah, Chair Johnson, it's a great question. Our housing program is actually separate.
Okay.
We have a separate program through the League of Minnesota Cities. They insure our liability and our property damage for our housing. Otherwise, this is all the council. And for a little more context, it's about $7.2 billion in property that we insure.
Wow, yeah. Anything else? All right, then again, the proposed motion is that the Metropolitan Council authorize to bind coverage of its property insurance effective 8/1/2024 through 8/1/2025 in an amount not to exceed $4.3 million. It's been moved by Osmond, is there a second? Second. Seconded by Cedarburg, any further questions? I just want to add my thanks, Phil, for your great expertise that you bring to the council and all the relationships that you have, and it's just one of those things that I think people across this region benefit from, but it's layered so deep into what we do and comes across in a fairly short presentation, but all the work that you and your team put into this, I'm just really grateful for that, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, seeing no other further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no, and that passes unanimously. So now we will bring up Marcy Cordes, our Chief Labor Relations Officer, to discuss the labor agreement with the International Union of Operating Engineers, that's local number 49. So welcome, Marcy.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Johnson and committee members. I am Marcy Cordes, the Chief Labor Relations Officer, and I do have a presentation on our tentative agreement with Local 49. The contract expired on December 31st. The International Union of Operating Engineers represents approximately 175 wastewater treatment operators who obviously provide that service for environmental services. After a number of negotiation sessions and mediations, we were able to reach a tentative agreement with the bargaining unit on June 28, 2024. They ratified that agreement on July 12. The highlights of the agreement: it's a 3-year contract that's effective January 1 of 2024 through December 31st, 2026. The compensation package includes a 5.5% general wage increase in the first year and a 6% market adjustment in the first year, a 3.5% general wage increase in year 2, and a 3% general wage increase in the third year of the contract. We also have included in this agreement employee incentives that will support reduced bidding and we think a more efficient continuity of services across all the wastewater plants. The wages and benefits negotiated in this agreement are consistent with agreements in place with the council's other labor unions. The cost of the agreement was reviewed by finance and was negotiated within the economic parameters established by the council. The item
There you go.
Under the Thrive Lens analysis, this falls under stewardship as a settlement that falls within the financial parameters established by the council, as well as prosperity. We believe the agreement represents a fair and reasonable wage settlement and demonstrates our commitment to our employees. So the requested action is the authorization of the regional administrator to enter into a labor agreement with the International Union Operating Engineers Local 49 effective January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2026.
Great, thank you, Marcy. Are there any questions, discussion? Any comments? Marcy, I want to thank you very much and the team for working very hard like you do on all of our negotiations to get this one done. I want to thank Local 49 for hanging in there with us and working through this and reaching, I think a really good agreement today. So just again, thanks to all parties involved. And with that, I'll just repeat again, the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to enter into a labor agreement with the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local number 49, effective January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2026. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved by Cedarburg, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Osmond, any further discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously, so thanks again, Marcy, we appreciate your hard work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 6 under our non-consent business, and this is item 2024-198, the same week as Comprehensive Security Platform Contract 24P210. We've got Gretchen White, our Chief Information Officer. Great to see you again, Gretchen. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. I'm here to present business item 2024-198, a comprehensive security platform. With me is also Eric Brown, our Chief Information Security Officer, if we have any detailed questions. An internal security risk assessment was performed by Eric and his team, and it was also followed up by testing that was performed by the Department of Homeland Security. Both identified significant gaps in our ability to identify and respond to malicious activity. So in response to that, we are recommending the purchase of a security platform, and what I mean by that is it will include hardware and maintenance for 5 years. It'll include software that we need and the licensing of that software for 4 years. It will also include some implementation services and training on the platform for our teams. The purchase of this security platform is going to improve our ability to identify issues. It will also expand our coverage. Part of it is a managed service, so we'll have 24/7 coverage of our endpoints. It'll give us enhanced visibility and the ability, that means like the ability to drill down to know where exactly and who exactly and what application exactly is having some issues. And it has the ability for automated response. And last but certainly not least is some forensics capabilities, which are really beneficial to reduce our time to respond and recover from a significant incident. So with that, our proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 24P210 with PDS to purchase and implement a comprehensive security platform for not to exceed amount to $4.5 million.
Thank you, Gretchen. Are there any questions? Councilmember Lee.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Gretchen. How come our licensing only covers the 4 first years and not the 5th?
Yeah, so the security, tooling, and software world changes very quickly. And so most times you would not commit to a 5-year deal because something better might come on the market. The reason the hardware is 5 years, it's pretty standard that hardware has a 5-year life expectancy, so you purchase that and the maintenance at one time to cover 5 years. So that's why the difference.
Thank you.
Good question, thank you. Any other Councilmember Barber?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question is how quickly can this get deployed and stood up? And are you prioritizing different parts of the organization in different priority levels?
So there will be some pieces that will be implemented almost immediately, and that goes to the pieces with the detection of any malicious activity on your endpoints and that managed service to help us 24/7. Other pieces like the hardware will take us anywhere from 6 to 9 months to complete because we need to work with the organization to not have any significant outages or have any outages planned. And then the other thing is, when you purchase platforms like this, you will basically have a roadmap. It will come with all kinds of features and functionality, and we'll have goals over the next 2 years of this is where we need to be by this point, and we're gonna implement this ability and that. So it really, you build your capabilities over a multi-year plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Barber. Is there anything else? Any other questions, comments? Gretchen, just remind me, how long have you been with the council again?
I made 6 months.
Yep. And I just have, and I don't know, how many of you met with Gretchen? I don't know. I got a great virtual meeting with Gretchen a little while back, and I just have to say, like all of our employees, yeah, welcome aboard, and you are fantastic, and your background is just what we need. So I want you to know that I know everything that we have going on is a lot around organizational excellence right now and making sure that we're doing things the way we need to be doing, not for just now, but for in the future. And I'm really glad you're on the team because I just sleep better at night. So yes, so I just want to thank you and your team for all your hard work, and I know a lot goes into this, and Eric as well. And I'm pretty excited about this one too, so.
Well, we're very appreciative of all the support, and Phil does tell me now in every meeting, this is about delivery, Gretchen, now. So just so you know, that's his part too.
There's a lot of project management stuff we're discussing today. So again, the proposed action is the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 24P210 with PDS to purchase and implement a comprehensive security platform for a not to exceed amount to $4.5 million. Do I have a motion?
So,
Moved by Lee, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Barber, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. That passes unanimously, so go forth.
Thank you.
Enjoy. Yeah. All right, we are now on to our 7th item, and this is our Equity Advisory Committee. It is 2024-202. It's the EAC bylaw amendments that we will be looking at today. And with us, we have Ashante Payne, our Assistant Director of the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity. Great to see you again, Ashante. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Council, and Committee members. Ashante Payne, Assistant Director, Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity, and I am here to present on business item 2024-202, amendments to the Equity Advisory Committee, otherwise known as the EAC bylaws. A little bit of background, on October 14th, 2015, the Metropolitan Council established the Equity Advisory Committee, and on February 22nd, 2017, the Metropolitan Council approved the EAC bylaws. The purpose and charge of the Equity Advisory Committee is to provide advice to the Metropolitan Council on projects and programs from an equity perspective. The EAC is comprised of 21 members, including 4 council members, 8 community members from geographic districts A through H, and 9 community members who serve at large. The committee's bylaws are being amended to assist in the functioning of the committee, and the bylaws provisions have been updated for clarification or revision to reflect the purpose and charge of the committee, operation of the committee, and council practices. The bylaw changes are shown in red in an attached red line format, Formatting and language clarity were revised throughout the document. And note in blue the revisions made post EAC vote. And here's a summary of the major changes. Article 1, committee purpose and charge. That was reformatted for language and clarity. Article 2, the 4-year staggered terms, clarified length of term of service, and the eligibility requirements for reappointment. Article 2, officers and state officers. C1, co-chairs, changed the term of co-chairs to 2 years, and state eligibility for reappointment with clarification of length of service in the role. C2 of Article 2, recording secretary, to state the role of the recording secretary. E2 of Article 2, attendance and removal, addition of an automatic removal of a member with 5 absences in the calendar year. Article,
Shante, can I just, while you're on this, would that be non-excused absences or absences no matter if there's an excuse or just a no-show status?
That is a good question. I do not have the answer to that.
Just circle back.
I will
Okay.
make sure that's circled
Pretty
back.
sure it's not excused.
Not excused, okay. And if that's the intent,
That is,
maybe we can just make a friendly amendment to put that in there. I just know it matters for my previous life. So-
It's in the red line.
Oh, is it? Sorry, I missed it. I'm reading it, I just missed that, sorry about that. Okay, thank you.
thank you, Councilmember Barber. And then Article 3, meetings. Update to reflect the meeting schedule of the committee and add the option of remote meetings. Article 3C, public record, stated to reflect access to public recordings of the meeting, or public record of the meeting. And Article 3E, conduct of business, clarifies conduct pertaining to voting and discussion for the efficient operation of the meeting. Article 6, expense reimbursement, addition of language to reflect that committee compensation may be changed if permitted by law without requiring an amendment to the bylaws. An addition of language as incentive for volunteer commitment to permit professional development opportunity at the discretion of the council. Now, these amendments will update the EAC bylaws and help to provide more efficient management of the EAC and the conduct of its business. The EAC bylaws, 8 amendment provide that these bylaws may be amended by a 2/3 vote of the committee members present at any regular meeting of the committee, provided that written notice setting forth in detail the contents of the proposed amendments has been given to the committee members at least 10 calendar days prior to the meeting. Just want to note that a quorum of members was present at the EAC meeting on June 18th, 2024. The members voted unanimously for approval of the amendments to the bylaws. EAC members were provided the amendments to the bylaws at least 10 calendar days prior to the meeting. And further, Article 9, approval by Metropolitan Council states that upon adoption of the committee, these bylaws and any amendments shall be submitted to the council for its review and approval. For Thrive Lens Analysis, the EAC is a community-centered committee. The committee is comprised of members with various backgrounds and experiences to enhance feedback and to incorporate diverse perspectives. Advice provided is through a lived professional lens and is to add additional value to the work developed or being developed by council staff for a more inclusive and equitable outcome in the region. The EAC's perspective and recommendations are critical to ensuring the Metropolitan Council advances equity that connects all residents to opportunity and create viable housing, transportation, and recreation options for people of all races, ethnicities, incomes, and abilities. So this influences all Thrive outcomes of equity, stewardship, prosperity, livability, and sustainability. I'll also just note that this is work that has been going on for about a year and a half. All of the EAC members, again, unanimously have voted to adopt these. So, the ask and proposed action is for approval of the amendments to the bylaws of the Equity Advisory Committee as reflected in the draft attached with this business item. And I will stand and try to address any questions that you have.
Thank you, Chantel. First go to Councilmember Pacheco because of your great leadership role with this group.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, members. A lot of what you had before you actually predated my involvement, I think, in the, when I first came to the board. So these amendments have been back and forth and studied and sent to legal and sent back over to the committee. And most of them were housekeeping. You know, it wasn't to address a major flaw in the system, but it's how we were operating. We weren't getting quorum often enough. We weren't tracking it often enough to define their role. You know, we have a 21 member. Having quorum has been difficult. Now, as you can see here, for the first time, we can choose to go to remote meetings, which are very helpful. Our meetings run from 6 to 8 o'clock in the evening, so people have time to get here, and then we provide food, and by the time everything gets organized, just to introduce ourselves sometimes takes a good chunk of the meeting. But this last round, we had on our appointments, we really have an active group. I think this was a good time to take a look at how we were going to operate and going forward, what it would look like. I think that the amendments that have been proposed and put before you are great. I think, again, we have involvement here. From the council side, there's myself, Councilman Osmond, and both Carters, Tony Carter and Tyrone Carter. And so we have a full slate. We had a great last couple meetings. So I'm fully in support of what's presented here today.
Thank you, Councilmember Pacheco. Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, so for related to that, since it says committee members are automatically removed from the committee if they miss 3 consecutive meetings unless they're excused. But then there's also committee members are automatically removed from the committee if they miss 5 committee meetings during a calendar year, whether or not the absences are excused or not.
Yes, I think
I want to
that's
make sure it was clear.
Yeah, thank you for that, because I think that's what I've been focusing on, but the 3 in a row is also a thing, which I think is fair. People have busy lives and sometimes they, have to opt out and get out, and that's okay too. But I just want to thank you for your hard work on this, because I was a liaison in my first term here at my council, and this is a great moment to level set and figure out what our committee members need so that they can participate more effectively. And so I'm really excited about that. And if the state ever does change law where they can be compensated, that's factored into this as well, because I know it can be a hardship on people and we recognize that. So at least we've built that into this, these changes as well. Any other questions? Councilmember Lee?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just want to thank Chair Pacheco for his leadership and the OEO staff and HR and legal who did a lot of work on this to get us to this point. It's one of the newer, younger committees, and so we worked through some growing pains as a committee. But it's important work to ensure that committee members feel like their experience and background and expertise is valued. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Lee. Great point. And I know that there's still work to do as it relates to the things that they review on their own or things we might send to them, but also how that information flows back to the council into the process so that it's folded into the work that we're doing and we recognize that their input is included in some of the decisions we're making. I think that's a point that we want to make sure in some of the staff reports too, that any recommendations that they have or anything that they generate to us is known and understood too. Councilmember Pacheco.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think it's a good point here, because I think we've defined where we want to go, but we're really understaffed actually right now, and so where even some of the tracking and getting the meetings ready and everything have been a chore, and then you finally get to substance, and it's difficult. So I really appreciate the work that SI's team has done to keep this thing operating and going well. And Shanti's our meetings most of the time, if not all the time, and so we've got great people and great interest, but we could use some more staff.
Yeah. Well, before we take a vote on this, that's a great segue to our information items. So are there any other questions or discussion on this? So again, just on behalf of the committee, I just want to echo everything that's been said and say thank you to your team, OEO, everybody, SI, you, and everybody who's really been probably putting in some overtime yourself and making sure this gets to where it needs to be, so. With that, I'll just repeat that the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council approve the amendments to the bylaws of the Equity Advisory Committee as reflected in the draft attached with this business item. Is there a motion to approve?
So,
Moved by Councilmember Pacheco, seconded by Councilmember Osmann, and again, thank you to Councilmember Osmann and Councilmembers Carters for their participation as well, and everybody past and present who's been involved in being that liaison and a member of that group. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously, so thank you, Shante, for being here today, we appreciate it. Our last item on our agenda today is the information item. It's our 2025 general purpose levy strategy and preliminary regional administration budget allocations. And I'm happy to welcome Ned Smith, our Chief Financial Officer. Great to see you, Ned. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. So today I am going to walk through our 2025 general purpose levy strategy and preliminary regional administration budget. So that's kind of two different conversations, but they both are managed through the regional administration and managed by this committee. So first we'll talk through the levy and some of the drivers for that and some of the strategy behind that. And then we will dive into the regional administration budget and how that will get allocated out to the divisions. Just to set the stage for overall how we do budget planning here, just as a reminder, the unified budget is a term you'll often use. That's both the operating budget and the capital budget are combined. And we develop those in May through July. The divisions are hearing their individual division budgets throughout the year. May was when environmental services heard theirs. CD and transit have also already heard theirs. All of that will get rolled up on August 14th when we will do an information item to present the entire operating budget, and then the council will adopt that on August 28th for the preliminary budgets and levies, and by law that has to be done before September 1st, and then we will in October we'll present the capital budget, same plan there. The divisions will hear their individual divisions, and then we'll roll that up for presentation to the overall council, and then that'll get approved combined on October 23rd for the public comment draft budget. And we put that out there for the public. And then again, by law, we have to adopt the final budget levy by December 20th. The other thing about why we have to get some of these in early is for truth and taxation notification by the counties, so they can get that out in their announcements. So that's kind of how all of this fits in. And again, management committee is kind of the committee for regional administration. And so that's why we're here to walk through that. Budgets are like gravity. It's not just a good idea, it's the law. So by law, the regional administrator will prepare and submit an annual budget. So this is just the statutory background for why we're here and why we're having these conversations. In terms of our overall levy strategy, we have some givens. Most importantly is our, not most importantly, the first bullet is that we have transit and parks debt service needs. So we have outstanding debt that has payments that are due, and so part of our levy is to pay off that debt service for both transit and for the parks. We also have a component that is our fiscal disparities levy. That's $5 million to our tax revitalization account. That is a account that cleans up polluted and dirty properties. That's actually a little bit outside of our standard levy. We don't issue that $5 million. That comes from another source, but it is administered by the council. Otherwise, we try to maximize our general purpose levy. Historically, we've kept that at 2%. We do have some constraints by the deflator, which I'll talk about in a minute, but we try to keep the overall levy increase to only 2%. We've done a pretty good job of that, except for 2021 when we put it at 0 because of concerns about the pandemic. But that is what drives then what's left over for our maximum, for our livable communities demonstration account levy. So overall, what does a 2% levy look like? The biggest piece is our debt service levies down at the bottom there. You can see parks is dropping a little bit because our debt service is dropping in parks. So we kind of let that fluctuate as our debt service levels go up and down. Parks doesn't generally issue debt every year. They kind of do it periodically, mostly as required by statute. So when they get certain funds, that require a match, that's when we issue debt for those. And then on transit, that's grown a little bit, and we are managing our debt service within transit as well. That has slowed down also a little bit because of the pandemic, and some of our ridership has been down, so we don't quite need to replace our buses as frequently. So we're seeing a slight slowdown, but we believe that the sales tax was a mandate from the legislation to be bold and think about ways that we can grow our transit system. So I anticipate that activity in the future for transit. Where that leaves us then is our general purpose as well as our demonstration account. Those are both pegged to the rate of the deflator, which is kind of tied to, it's a Bureau of Economic Analysis, it's tied basically to inflation. It's a little bit low this year. 2 years ago it was 8%, last year is about 5.5%, and now we're at 1.8. That's a little swizzle there. Both the general purpose and the demonstration act should be at 1.8. I guess we use Euclidean geometry for the demonstration act and the rounding, but those both should be 1.8. And that's what drives the money that's available for those two accounts, and I'll walk through those. Overall though, what this 2% means for a $300,000 home, it'd be between $17 and $47, depending on where you live, if you're in a transit region or not. But just again, we're very proud of our 2% history. Einstein once said the most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. We're choosing not to use our forces of power here for good. And so you can see that we're on the bottom there, that we're the light blue line. The dark blue is cities, green is counties, and school district is red. If you're colorblind, we're the bottom one and all the others are on top. So you can see that we've been growing at a much slower rate than our peers. In terms of the overall general purpose levy at 19.32%, this is our most flexible use. We use most of this for community development at 16.86. This is to carry out our council responsibilities as defined by law. We do have a statutory required transfer to local housing incentive of $1 million. We also dedicate $100,000 each year to water supply planning or water planning over in environmental services. That's left over from when water supply planning used to be in CD and then it moved over to water supply. But we cannot use municipal wastewater fees for water supply planning, so we use the levy for that. And then the 1.36% that's left over right now, that is for, I'm sorry.
Million. 1.36 million.
Yes.
You said percent.
I did not mean that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, Madam
Yeah,
Chair.
not that I know anything more than you for goodness
Well,
sakes, but I
should-
was just trying to track with you for a second there.
I should have noticed the dollar sign. That's a good indicator for me. So yes, 1.36 million is what's left over. Historically, we've used that for investments around the council. 2 or 3 years ago, we used it for equity investments. Last year, we used it for BPSI, which we all know what it is now, but I'm going to try it anyway, business process systems integration. Bam.
Well done.
So we've used, and we will be working with this committee to determine how we want to invest that in the future. In terms of our grants programs, I talked about the tax-based revitalization account levy. Again, it is $5 million to clean up land, polluted land in the metropolitan area. Again, this is separate. This is only levied on industrial and commercial users. It is not levied on residential users. And then the rest on the livable communities demonstration account, that is tied to the 1.8% deflator. So 15.6 million is 0.2 million is proposed for that for 2025. And again, we want to maximize that to our levy limit of 2%, but we are somewhat limited based on the implicit price deflator. Our local incentive housing account, that's the $1 million that we mentioned earlier. That's a statutory transfer. So at this, I'll pause to take a breath and ask if there's any questions about the levy before I move on to the regional administration budget.
Are there any questions? Councilmember Cedarberg.
Can you go to slide 7? So on the primary uses, who determines how that money gets split up between community development, local housing, and water planning support?
That's primarily the staff with your concurrence.
Okay. So does that come before us at some point to approve?
Yes.
Would be part of the budget.
That's part of the budget, okay.
That'll be part of the overall budget presentation. Again, info item on August 14th, and then final approval is on August 28th.
Okay.
Thank you, question, thank you.
Any other questions on the levy? Okay, so here's the part where I'm the waiter and I bring the bill for Gretchen's great work. So a couple of key drivers that are driving our budget for 2025, I think these are somewhat in order of importance and magnitude. Cybersecurity vulnerability, we've identified that. I believe this committee has been briefed. So we are looking at increasing our resources, both FTEs as well as some contract services and additional tools, which Gretchen just talked about. We also want to support transit growth in technology, recruiting and retention in real estate and procurement. So that's really the growth that we're seeing in the transit division, coming from the sales tax and from other market forces that transit is growing, and therefore that's going to cause a lot of additional support needed from regional administration. Some of that is, so that's increasing our human resource support, both for transit, but also for some of our other areas too. We've been slightly understaffed. You can see that in human resources. You can see that through the vacancies that the divisions have been experiencing, where the divisions are just not backfilling or hiring new positions as fast as they should. And so human resources is going to increase their hiring support to keep those teams fully staffed. We're also looking at redesigning and revamping our office space here in Robert Street. That'll be anyone who has sat in an A or a B conference room and you want to get there early so you don't have to sit in the short chair will know that our furniture is long overdue for replacement. So that's going to be that and some other improvements. As well as, particularly in IS, we have some moving from our consulting to permanent employees, where we're taking folks that have been on the consultant side, temporary, and we're moving them over to the permanent side.
Are there any questions on this slide? I just have one. So I just want to emphasize, again, in talking to Cassandra, our Chief Human Relations Officer, how important it is that HR has a complement of people that can help the divisions with their hiring, and that it because of the strategic plan that's in place now with HR, it really, and I got a briefing on it, really just demonstrated to me that when you have more work to do or you are behind in getting people hired on it, there's just a level that HR has to be there, and then there has to be that divisional support to onboard people and make sure that they stick and you know, get what they need so that they feel good about working here. So I'm really glad to see that, of course, rolling out within the budget, because I think it's in past years, and just knowing what a great organization we are, but also at times what a stressed organization we are with everything that we're doing and everything that's coming at us and going through the pandemic and people wearing more than one hat and all the things we have going on here. And just kind of going through some cultural things here as well. It's just really important when we see those budgets coming through and we know whether it be any of our committees, the people that stand behind them in the divisions, that they have the people they need to carry out the work we expect them to do. So I raised that as it just related to the Equity Advisory Committee because yeah, we're short-staffed, but it's throughout the council in certain areas more than others. And I'm much more confident today than I was a year or two ago that we are not only just meeting the needs that we've got, but we're, I think, being much more transformational in how we do the work and how we're approaching our hiring needs. And so I just wanted to thank everybody for working on that, and it is showing up in the budget, and I'm really happy about that because I know we've asked people in divisions, if you need more staffing, please put them in your budgets, and I don't know if that always happens, so. Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a couple of questions. So for the second bullet, the supporting transit growth with all of the centralized services, does that mean, are we forecasting somewhat ahead, knowing what we have coming in with sales tax and what we're building, like what basically so regionalized or RIS centralized services, each division kind of pays for some of that. So the funds coming from Metro Transit over to RA, is that, are you being a little proactive knowing that there's going to be growth?
Madam Chair and Councilmember Johnson, the short answer is yes, but I want to be very clear about two things. One is this is the increases that we're talking about are not just transit focused. We're seeing that environmental services has needs. CD and HRA has needs. I know there's been some increase in our funding for, federal funding for HRA. We need additional resources to support that. I also want to emphasize that the HR support is not just hiring. If you're going to grow your staff, you need everything that goes with that. You need occupational health, you need retention, you need help with benefits, so all of these things are rolling into those pressures. Some of it is, in the budget, has been specifically designated for transit. So they want to increase signs, digital signs. So that anyone who works on digital signs for transit will only charge to transit. So we're seeing some of that is dedicated. And we are very, very careful to make sure that any dollar that transit receives only goes for transit services. And the same is true with environmental services. We want to make sure that they are only paying for environmental services. That's redundant. Anyway, so we are being very careful in how we're managing that. We are respecting that the additional sales tax revenue is for transit and only for transit, and nobody gets a free ride for that.
No pun intended.
No pun, yeah.
Actually, I did that on
I
purpose.
think you did that on purpose, yeah. The second question is for moving from consulting to permanent employment. Are you prioritizing which areas you're going at? Because obviously there is some consulting that may be more cost effective than other areas where it may be more expensive consultants. I'm thinking being an engineering consultant versus, you've got a number of people in IS versus maybe some other places you have people filling in.
Madam Chair and Councilmember Johnson, most of the conversions are in information services, and most of them have been here for 12 to 18 months. So it's a very efficient transfer.
Thank you. Any other questions on this slide? All right, we can move on.
Okay. So overall, regional administration budget for 2025 is going to be $115.7 million. And that's about a 17% increase. Pause. 70% increase, but the services that we're talking about are going to require additional resources. So how this breaks out by department, you can see information services is the lion's share and is growing. That if you looked at this pie chart last year, they were a smaller percentage. So they are growing as a total percent of total as well as in raw numbers. So information services is exactly what you think it is. Financial services includes our budgeting, accounting, financial reporting, procurement, and management of council risks, including contracts and procurement, real estate, and risk. Business services is communications and community relations and recruitment and retention of council employees. So those specific departments are communications and human relations, human resources. And then our administrative services, those departments are the chair's office, government affairs, general counsel, program evaluation and audit, and OEEO. In terms of how we spend those dollars, you can see that people are our largest investment at almost 60%. The rest is contracted services, and then other, which is things like materials and supplies, training, local, non-local travel, and other buckets there. In terms of how do we pay for this, you can see that almost all of it comes from the RA allocation, and I'll walk through in a minute what that looks like to each division. But it's basically self-funded by the divisions. So RA sends a bill to the divisions and they transfer the money back. So most of it is from there. We do have a little bit from property tax as well as our investment income. And then reserves or council investment, which is where we're using some of our reserves to pay for those expenses.
And then and with this, and maybe you're getting into it, I don't know, but how many new positions for RA are in this budget? Okay,
Madam Chair, that'll be coming shortly.
okay, great, thank you.
So let's talk dollars first. So in terms of the budget in dollars, you can see salaries and benefits has had a pretty big jump. That's our largest dollar amount at 18.4% or $10 million. Contracted services here is a little bit understated because it doesn't include IS contract services. That's all in IT maintenance. And so there you can see that's a bigger number, and you can see that's growing as well at $3.5 million. And then other, again, is our travel, material supplies, capital outlays, rent, and our remodel is also baked into there. So that's in terms of dollars. In terms of FTEs, here you can see where the significant gains are. The largest is, these are listed mostly alphabetically. The largest is on the right-hand side at Information Services with plus 31. Second is on the left-hand side, Human Resources at plus 21. So that's where we're seeing the biggest growth, but we're also seeing growth across the rest of the organization, especially in Enterprise Content Management, which is kind of building a capability right now. OEO is adding 3 in addition to 2 that they're adding in the third quarter. So OEO is growing as well. And I do want to call out that we have increased our vacancy factor. So we used to have a vacancy factor of 5. So a vacancy factor is you are acknowledging that every FTE that you have budgeted will not have a person sitting in that chair all year round. Particularly even with at 2025 additions, when you add them in the budget, they won't all start on January 1st. So you want to build in some cushion. It's actually a negative, which scares the willies out of me to plan a negative number. But it does give us a more accurate budget, and it makes sure that we're allocating our allocations to our divisions more truly closely match what we're actually going to incur. So that number was at 5, it is now at 15. Industry standard would probably be closer to 25. You usually want to be around a 5%. So we are staying below that to stay conservative, but we are increasing it a bit to acknowledge that we will not be able to hire all these folks on January 1st.
And then if I may, so, okay, and how is, so this is, what I'm hearing you say, this is a pretty significant jump from what we've done in the past. Did I hear that right? We had 5 before, now we're going to 15.
Yes, Madam
For
Chair.
RA.
And a good rule of thumb is 100-ish thousand per person. So this is about $1 million. We did have it at about 500,000 or 600,000, and now it'll be up at around 1.6 million.
Okay, right, thank you. Any questions on this one? Councilmember Cedarberg?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think just to kind of build on what Madam Chair said too about the need for the onboarding, just when you're adding 31 people to Information Services, adding 21 people to Human Resources. I know they're not all starting January 1st, but there's a real level of supervision, accountability. If these people really aren't working out, how you exit them as well. I mean, you can think the best of everybody you're hiring as well. So it's just a lot of moving pieces, and there's a lot of money involved with those 52 people as well. And so I just see that is, again, something that has to be checked in on a regular basis to make sure that people are productive and the right hires can get on board at all levels of what you need them to do. So,
thank you. Ned, how many slides do you have for your presentation? I just want to keep track of time. Okay, perfect.
And Madam Chair and Councilmember Cedarberg, I'm not sure if, I assume you all know, but we do have a 6-month probation period for all employees. And so at the end of 6 months, if the person isn't working out, that's it.
Okay.
You're done. We don't go through the normal machinations that we do to help people find the best home for them. So we do have a 6-month probation period that lets us work through those that aren't working out. And I have seen that used aggressively in my years at the council. So I will speed up.
Oh, you're good.
So in terms of how, again, I said before that almost every dollar is paid for by the divisions. Here you can see what those dollar allocations are, as well as the percent increases by each division. I will say for environmental services, that looks a little frightening, but they've actually been flat for a year or so. So if you do a 3-year average, it's pretty reasonable. Metro Transit and MTS, those are what we expected to see because of the increased services that they are asking for from RA. Community development and HRA, that's one where we're gonna need to sharpen our pencils and think about more long-term. Because we're gonna bump up against the deflator. We can only charge so much to pay for those. We can only get so much money from the federal government to support HRA. So those are ones where we're gonna need to think about how do we manage that going forward. I do have full faith that this type of increase is a one-time thing. I don't think we'll be adding 48 people every year. I look forward to getting back to the onesie twosies, fivesies, sixties, but we'll see what the needs of the business are, of course. We do need to think about in a long-term strategy for community development HRA, but I do feel if we can get this to level out and we can get to the right level as we're proposing here, that should be manageable.
And being my own worst enemy on time, to Councilmember Barber's point, but maybe not exactly, we are bringing on new transit lines, we are not shedding work here at the Met Council, we're continuing to grow as the region grows and our responsibilities growing based on a lot of, money that's coming from the legislature, so I just, as we factor in, we'll have money coming in to pay for transit through the transit tax. Does that money work its way through RA then through these allocations that come from each of the divisions to pay for the additional support that's needed through RA to the divisions, i.e. transit relating to the new revenue coming in?
Madam Chair, yes. Every expense dollar is allocated out based on, it depends on what the item is. It could be, if it's legal and someone is working on a case for transit, then they will charge their time to transit. Other things are allocated based on things like headcount or computers, so real estate is allocated based on headcount. IS and computers, a lot of them, not all of it, but a lot of it is allocated based on the number of terminals. And then again, if there's HR where you're doing specific work for a division, then you will charge your time specifically.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Barber?
And Madam Chair, and this is exactly what my question was, so it was, how is it increasing, where is it going, so,
So that concludes. I do want to give credit where credit is due. I'm very thankful for Marie Henderson, Deputy CFO, as well as Stuart McMullen and his budget team. They did all of this work. I'm just the talking head. So I'm grateful to them for all their work and expertise and the coaching they gave me to this point.
Great, thank you. We also, want to thank the team because we know it's a team effort and a lot of work goes into this. And I think again, as the council is going through a lot of changes and is taking on more responsibility and trying to, come out of COVID and all kinds of things, it's just great to see a really sharp team in place to make sure that it all happens the way it's supposed to happen and we don't fall back, because I know it's been hard in recent years. So, any questions, comments, concerns? All right, with that, this is just an information item. So again, the budget's working through all the committees. It'll come before council for a preliminary preview. We'll be adopting it before September 1st, whatever August date you gave, and then as you all know, we'll do our final adoption in December. We can not increase the levy, but we could decrease the levy under Minnesota law. And if anybody wants to know about the deflator, I think it's the implicit price deflator. That's fun. Call Ned and he'll tell you all about it. So anyway, is there any other business to come before the group? Seeing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.